Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's John. I'm looking after marketing at Plotly, and you'll be glad to hear you won't be hearing too much from me, but I will be your host for today. I'll help channel your questions, maybe ask some questions of our presenters, and kind of keep things on the rails. Um, the whole team here is so excited to be able to bring Dash Enterprise 6.0 to you. If you know Dash Enterprise, it's been a product we've been working on for like almost 9 years since the first version in 2017. But with 6, we've really taken it to another level, becoming Kubernetes-native, opening up a whole wealth of functionality. But our presentation today, if you're new to Dash Enterprise, you're new to Plotly, we have something for you. We'll kind of talk you through why Dash. We'll show you some examples. We'll show you what Dash Enterprise does, and then we'll kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty features that are enabled now with our full native Kubernetes support. All right. So the speakers today, you've heard from me. I'm honored to introduce Eric Moore, who's the head of product and engineering at Plotly, and Mingo Sanchez, who is our superstar team lead sales engineer. If ever you want a demo on anything Plotly, Mingo is the go-to person. So we're in good hands there. If you have any questions, down on the right-hand side, you'll see there is a little questions tab. Going to be your proxy today, and I'll be going through the questions and finding the right points to interject them, ask them Eric to Mingo, and then we'll do a kind of roundup of those at the end of the session as well if there's anything outstanding. Some of my colleagues will probably be in there, and they might answer some of the questions by typing as well. So the first thing I'd like to do is just kind of orient you in terms of the Plotly platform, as we call it. We have a range of things from open source through to enterprise publishing, and in the middle of the sweet spot today is the way we're doing data app development with Plotly Studio. Who doesn't know that AI is kind of the new code assistant? And there are so many different forms of that, but we have tuned our offering to really help accelerate the way that you build data apps, even if you've never coded before, even if you can't code. So that's not something we'll spend a lot of time on today, but we have other webinars. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about that. But most people are familiar. Plotly is the OG for Python visualization, with our graphing library that lets you create over 50 different types of charts, and then the Dash framework, which brings in the callback mechanism. It lets you publish those as web apps. You know, those are the things we're really well known for, and millions of Python developers use those. And we know that from seeing you all on our docs every single day. I talked a little bit about Plotly Studio. That's something that we launched in September last year. It's free to get started. If you go to plotly.com/downloads, you can try it out. You get a free allowance of AI credits. And it's a great way of building data apps from your data, you know, without any prompting if you want to, or you can iterate over that. Super powerful, and it's really giving BI a run for its money these days. And then when it comes to sharing those apps, we have two options. We have our SaaS service, Plotly Cloud. Again, that launched in September. It's a really lightweight way of publishing apps, sharing them. You can do that privately, publicly, and we're building in more and more enterprise features to that. But then ultimately, the Rolls-Royce, the gold standard for publishing is Dash Enterprise, and that's going to be our topic today. Dash Enterprise is a solution that you host yourself on your own private infrastructure, whether that's in a cloud or actually really on-prem, and it gives you the full flexibility, the full privacy, full security that a lot of enterprises require, you know, at the enterprise scale. But we'll dig into a lot of that fairly soon. And so, you know, before Eric gets into the details of Dash Enterprise 6 and what the capabilities are there, I'd love to hand off to Mingo, who's going to give you a kind of whistle-stop tour of Dash Apps, Dash Enterprise. You know, what is the point of Kubernetes is great, but you've got to be doing something useful. So this is the useful stuff that you'll be doing on Dash Enterprise. Over to you, Mingo.
Perfect. Thank you so much, John. And thank you so much to everyone who's joined for our webinar today. We're so excited to be speaking with so many of you. I see in the chat that we have folks joining from all around the world, so that's absolutely fantastic. As John mentioned, I'm going to be giving a really quick run through just of the capabilities of Dash Enterprise to ground us all in what's possible with the platform before I hand it over to Eric to talk in more detail about all the improvements in the back end that have come with Dash Enterprise 6. So I'm going to bring up my screen here and just give a very quick walkthrough of the Dash Enterprise platform. There are a few different aspects to what you get with Dash Enterprise, and I usually like to break it down into a few different buckets. So first and foremost, Dash Enterprise is the easiest way to share your apps with other people, both internally and externally. This page that we're on right now is what you can think of as a landing page, the portal, where every one of these cards that you see on the screen here is a different Dash app, a different web app that we've built in Python that's running on the server or on the cluster. So we can click into any one of these and start interacting with that application as an end user. And we'll go into more detail about some of these in a few minutes. But that's the first piece of what Dash Enterprise is it's literally that platform where you can navigate to and start seeing the different applications that have been built and shared with you. Now that sharing piece is really important, and that gets into kind of the second piece about the platform, which is not just for end users, but for the app creators and developers. There's this whole management page. So as I scroll through here, you can see the different apps that we've created and have deployed to this Dash Enterprise instance. We have that zoomed out view where we're able to see all the different applications. And then for any one of those applications, you're also able to get much more granular, and you're able to configure all different aspects of that application at different points in its life cycle. So you're able to see where that code is that's backing the application. You're able to go in and make changes to the code directly in our workspace, our in-browser IDE. So if I want to make changes, I don't need to do so locally and then push those changes. I'm able to do that directly within the interface. And then, of course, we also have pages where you're able to manage stuff like connecting to different data sources, and probably most importantly, managing access control so that you're able to grant access to different users or teams of users to see your applications that you've built. So if I could summarize that really succinctly, Dash Enterprise is making that back-end configuration of making your app work a lot easier. And a lot of what you're going to be hearing about in the webinar today is around some of the improvements that have come with Dash Enterprise 6 to make this so much better and more accessible to people. Now, along with the platform itself, you get a ton of additional capabilities beyond our open source with Dash Enterprise. And you can see some of these listed on the left. We have our Dash Design Kit, which makes building out the application UI much easier. So if I go into our code here, you can see that as I'm building the code, I'm able to use these DDK, Dash Design Kit components, to very easily build these components that show up in the app on the right. And then I'm also able to do stuff like styling my app. So one of the most painful things about building an application traditionally is making it look the way you want it to look, getting the colors right, the font, etc. But with the Dash Design Kit, you're able to, with a few button clicks, change everything about the look and feel of your application without writing a single line of code. So you can go in, you're able to choose the colors that you want for different aspects of the app. Maybe I want to change the default for the graphs, so I'm able to make those changes, and then they show up instantly. Everything about the look and feel, down to which fonts you're using, how much spacing you have between the different elements on the page, even if you want buttons to look 3D or flat. All these are options that are available to you through this UI, and then you're able to create those themes and share them across your different applications and teams. We also have additional capabilities like being able to generate reports. So if I go back to our applications here, you can actually see an example of this where I'll go into this app. On the surface, this looks a little bit more like, I'd say, a traditional analytics dashboard where we have our graphs, we have our table down below where we're able to view the data and play around with it, even download it. But we also have this generate report button where I'm able to make selections of the data that I want to include in that report to share with people. I click that generate button. And if I go to this list here, I can see all of those historical reports that have been generated. So it's a really good record of all the different analyses that we've wanted to do. And one option is that you're able to view this as a PDF, everyone's favorite. You're able to download this as a file. You can attach it to an email. You can upload it to your cloud storage bucket. And it just has the content that the user selected when they click that button. But more interestingly, we also have this leftmost column, which when you click into it, brings up a view that looks really similar. But as I scroll down here, one thing you'll notice as I hover over is that this isn't a file. This is just another page within that Dash app that's been styled to look like a PDF report, but has all the interactivity that you've come to know and love within the Plotly ecosystem. So put another way, we're giving you almost a save button where you're able to take a point-in-time snapshot of the data you want to capture and then share that with other people or come back to it later yourself. Now, there are a lot of other capabilities in Dash Enterprise made available via libraries and other tools, things like being able to embed a Dash application inside another web app front end, being able to connect to different data sources using your single sign-on provider, lots of other things that we unfortunately don't have time to cover today because I want to make sure you have enough time to see what's coming with Dash Enterprise 6. But one other thing that I did want to very quickly show, and I'm going to actually switch my screen share here, is that all Dash Enterprise customers get full access to Plotly Studio, another one of those tools that John mentioned earlier. So if I bring up this other screen here, you can see our Plotly Studio landing page. So this is a desktop application that's used to build applications. And it's really easy to click that new project button. And then that's going to bring me to a page where I'm able to either provide a file or I can chat with a chatbot agent and connect to any type of data source that I want. So if I want to connect to something like S3 or Snowflake or maybe even something that's not in this CAN list, I give it information about what I want to connect to. The model figures out which libraries need to be used to connect to that source, and then it will give you suggestions about what to do. So connect to a table in Redshift. So you're able to have this iterative conversation, and then the model will give you responses in kind about how to connect to that data source. And in here, you can also do things like manipulating the data set that you bring in. You can also see that the code that's generated, that skeleton code uses dedicated libraries for connecting to that source. We're also dynamically generating these user interfaces so that you're able to securely paste in the connection information that you need to access that source. Now, it would take 1 or 2 minutes to generate an app from scratch. So in the interest of time, I'm actually going to shift to an example that we already created, just to show you an example of what that end state might look like for creating a Studio app. So in a couple minutes, you create an application, all using natural language and AI. And then as I scroll through here, you can see what one of those dashboards might look like. So you have a lot of really nicely styled graphs that have a lot of features like inline controls, styling. And then for any one of these components, you're able to see the prompt that was used to generate that specific visualization. So it's really easy for a person as well as the model to follow. Up top, you have that general description of the chart. Then you have bullet points describing the type of visual, variables, any aggregations or pre-processing that you need to do on the data, as well as any controls or options you want the user to select. You're able to see a more in-depth step-by-step. Here's everything that's going on in this code. And for the people who are more technical and want to see the underlying code, you have the option to not only view the code, but make changes directly in the code as well. So really easy for both newcomers to the Plotly offerings, as well as really advanced Dash developers to be able to quickly spin up applications. And as you iterate, if you want to add new things into these apps, it's really easy to go in and you can either see the suggestions from the model about different types of visuals to add, or if I scroll to the bottom here, you're able to specify yourself in natural language the types of charts you want to add, or, and this is really cool, one of the newer features in Studio, you're able to provide an image of the graph that you want it to build. And then the model is going to take that image, try to create a very similar visual in Plotly using AI. So as John mentioned earlier, that was really a very quick run through of Dash Enterprise. I wanted to make sure for the folks who haven't seen Dash Enterprise before that functionality is all clear. But with the remaining time today, I want to make sure that I'm able to hand it over to Eric to walk you through all the cool new stuff that's coming in Dash Enterprise 6. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop
here. Before you do that, there is a button. There's a button hiding up in the top right that I think is very relevant to our conversation.
Very much so. So Studio is not just a standalone tool, but you're able to publish those apps directly to Dash Enterprise. So if you click that publish button up here, in a couple of minutes, it deploys that application to the platform that Eric's going to be talking about more.
Thanks, Bingo. No, I know you're struggling with the flu or something, so awesome demo.
I appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, and so that was our whistle-stop tour of basically what Dash Enterprise does for you. But now I'd like to hand over to Eric, really, to start digging into so what's going on behind the scenes, and particularly to emphasize, if you're using Dash and Plotly today, if you were to do that manually, there's a lot of work you have to do to deploy the apps to operate them. And the reason people go with Dash Enterprise, apart from all the great libraries, is because it does all of that work for you repeatedly without error. And so Eric's going to kind of dig into those different phases that you should consider and see where Dash Enterprise is doing all the heavy lifting for you. Over to you, Eric.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so today I'm going to be going over both Dash Enterprise as a whole. So for anybody that's familiar with Dash Enterprise 5, Dash Enterprise in its previous iterations, some of this information won't be new to you because we have a lot of the same feature set in there. But we really want to also talk about Dash Enterprise 6, what it means, and the values of the work and progressing into that next stage. So the way I like to think about Dash Enterprise is it especially Dash Enterprise 6, is it targets 4 different pieces of the journey of building data applications, sharing them, having them be valuable tools inside of your business, and also just be a platform that across the company, from the people building the applications to the IT to the business stakeholders, you get that value. So I'm going to be talking about 4 different areas of the product: the build phase, the deploy phase, the operate phase, and the integrate phase. And we'll work through each of those pieces to understand the platform, understand what Dash Enterprise is, how it helps that, and where Dash Enterprise 6 really shines for each of those areas. So first off, I want to talk about what is Dash Enterprise 6. So as Mingo just shared in his demo, it is a platform for building, deploying, operating Dash applications. Dash Enterprise 6 is a complete re-architecture of the previous product, Dash Enterprise 5, that is really focused on being Kubernetes native. It is really simplified. Dash Enterprise 5, in most cases, required a virtual machine. You have to spin that up, and the platform would run inside of that. Now Dash Enterprise 6 is able to operate entirely Kubernetes native. It can scale across and make use of a lot of the standard Kubernetes practices. The install is straightforward using standard tools like Helm. And yeah, it's really where we see a lot of value to the customers that are using it, where they're able to get both use their existing infrastructure, but also Dash applications need to, what's the best way to put it? You want to have that dynamic value in your infrastructure. And so it lets you just scale up, scale down as needed, and really integrate with all the tooling that you have available to you inside of your IT department. So the first bit that I want to talk about is the build phase. And so build is, you have a Dash app that you need, or you have an idea that you need for a Dash app, whether that comes from Python code, Plotly Studio. You need to get that into your platform. You need to get that out into the world and to be able to share it inside your business externally. So what does that look like? And so in Dash Enterprise, we have a tool really that's really great for anybody that doesn't have Python set up or doesn't have these other kind of scenarios for building those applications. We have the workspace, and the workspace is a IDE built right into the platform. So you can open a browser, type in the name of the app that you want to build, or select it from one of our great catalog apps that just kind of jumpstart that process. And you can be coding in the browser in just a couple of minutes. And so this is a great way for a really standardized, no muss, no fuss way of getting started on building applications and get them just directly into the platform. We found this to be really valuable with a lot of our customers who are air-gapped, have really regulated environments where everything just has to be in this lockdown format, and they still want to be able to standardize and be able to be productive. And the workspace is a really good way to do that. So that's one of the ways that you can get building, along with using VS Code, Cursor, Plotly Studio, however you like to build Dash apps. But the one that Dash Enterprise sends with it and has since at least E5 is the workspace. So Dash Enterprise has a Git-based workflow, and we've done an improvement with it in Dash Enterprise 6, where you're able to natively connect to GitHub now. This is a big move and one of the real values of 6 and being Kubernetes native platform is that we're starting to get all of that information, all that code, all that data off of your instance, off of your cluster, so that you can get high availability, that you can get disaster recovery, that you can go through your standard work processes, which are really important. And one of those that's like really integrated into a lot of companies is Git workflows. So you want to be able to review code, you want to be able to do scans. Right now in Dash Enterprise 5, there's an on cluster or on instance inside of Dash Enterprise, a server for this. And it works great. You can still follow Git practices, but it doesn't have that flow of how everything else that runs on code in your company probably works. And so now you can configure GitHub rather than pointing to the internal DE6 Git server. You point it to GitHub. You can run through all of your processes, and then when you approve the PR, you can just send that right back into Dash Enterprise because it's all connected through a GitHub app. For customers and people that still want to have the on-cluster Git, that's still there. We haven't changed anything about the internals. This is really just an extension and a way that you can improve the way that you manage the code for your applications that you are deploying to Dash Enterprise. So 2 other features that are really important for Dash Enterprise is the build system and per app services. So our build system, we got a revamp of it. with DE6, smoother, faster, cleaner. And what the build system is, for those that aren't familiar, a good way to manage and standardize building things and putting them on the web, which Dash Enterprise does, and you want to make it be able to share, is to do what's called containerization. Dash Enterprise does all of that for you. So rather than you have to figure out how to put it into a container and get that deployed and manage it in a registry, Dash Enterprise just does that. You click a button, that button that Mingo showed in Plotly Studio, it's the same process. Click it in the workspace, the process. If you push it to GitHub, the same process, puts it in a container, builds it, gets it ready for the web, and we'll put it online with its own custom URL. You have to do zero work. So that's a really great way to share applications inside of your company. You can make them public if you need to. We'll talk about all the authentication and authorization controls later. But that build system is it's a bunch of technical engineering work that anybody building applications wherever they're starting doesn't need to do. And that's a really great value prop of having a platform like Dash Enterprise. We also have per app services. So if your application needs to have a database attached to it, it needs to have a caching layer, or you want to be able to spin up workers, Dash Enterprise just handles that out of the box. You click a couple of buttons and you have a database that you can use inside your application. So that's been around since DE5. It's a great way to kind of control, and again, to standardize and make everything really simple and straightforward for while you're building your applications. Another feature of building applications, as Mingo shared in Studio, you want to connect to your data. People build, and Dash Enterprise has a standard way of doing this as well. We have a number of out-of-the-box pre-configured connections. You just enter the credentials to connect to your Databricks or your Snowflake or an S3 bucket, and you can put access controls on that, so you can decide who is able to access the values and build on top of those applications. These are a really great way just to, again, remove an item of friction for building applications that need to connect to external data. Makes it really simple for administrators to control who gets access to what, and for people building those applications, it makes it really simple to just get going. The credentials are all there. It's a simple one line of Python to get them out, and you're off to the races building that. So you built an application, you have it, you're ready to go. You put it in the workspace. It was on Plotly Studio. Now you need to get it out and share it. And this is where the deploy step comes in. This is how you get your app from your computer, your Dash Enterprise instance, but in the workspace, or just you need to get that deployed. So what does that look like? I already touched on this earlier. Everything that we do in this is using best practices from software development, and we make that available with just git push. We also have a CLI tool that you can write DE deploy, and off it goes to Dash Enterprise if you've configured it. It's a simple git push. Dash Enterprise does that build, and then, as I mentioned earlier, it puts it on your cluster with its own custom URL and is available for viewing to whoever you provide access to it for. So this makes it, again, a one-click or a one-liner to take all that work that you've done, all that data analysis, that beautiful dashboard, and share it with whoever it needs to get reviews, to get input, to drive something for the business. There's no, like I said, you don't need to do any of that technical work, worry about what is Kubernetes. Dash Enterprise handles all of that for you.
Eric, a quick question, or a couple of questions. So it's support for GitOps and GitLab.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak to those?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on those at the end on the roadmap. So we started with GitHub, and that was one of the largest Git server provider amongst our existing customers. On our roadmap is to add GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps. I think that would cover over, I want to say over 98% of our existing customers and prospects that we've talked to. So our goal is to get to being able to provide the same quality of GitOps, Git-based deploys, and management and integration between Dash Enterprise 6 and the standard Git providers as we can across all 4 of those. So that's on our roadmap coming through the coming months. So I touched on this earlier. One of the things that is really important, Dash Enterprise, you've installed this in your cloud on-prem. Authentication and authorization are core to the reason that you did that. There's a reason you didn't put it in the cloud. There's a reason you're not using a different type of service. And Dash Enterprise comes built in with SSO permissions built onto the platform. You just configure that using your IDP, however you do your IDP. But also the applications inherit that access control, and there are built-in access controls per application. So you can assign individual users, you can assign individual groups to, that, to view that application, to access that application. And that is that's a couple of button clicks or a couple of CLI commands to make that happen. Traffic can't get in otherwise. So that's a really important feature that is just really table stakes, and we've done our best to make sure that is as easy and simple and straightforward as possible to make that there. The important part is nobody has to write any code in their applications to make them secure. They are secure out of the box. We even have a library. I didn't include it on this slide, but now it's just reminding me. We have a library called -OAuth that's specifically for if you want another type of authentication on there. It lets you do standard OAuth that a lot of people will be used to from Google or GitHub or Azure that goes through that flow. If you want to not use the Dash Enterprise flow, you can just in one line of code wrap your application in this library, and it will do an OAuth flow using secret values, and you can authenticate your app that way. So a lot of ways to do it, zero or very little effort to ensure that those applications are properly authenticated and have the proper permissions on them. So as Mingo, he showed in his demo, app configuration, what you see on that screenshot there is the app manager. What we have is just its standard, straightforward way to set environment variables, to roll back to a previous Git commit, to view other applications that you have access to. Everything is just built into the UI so that managing your applications like using any other piece of web software, doesn't require Kubernetes knowledge. You don't have to enter commands like kubectl. You don't have to work with YAML files or manifests or anything like that. It's button clicks, and you can get deployed, update a value, rebuild your application, change anything that you would need to do in terms of that. The management of those applications is just available at your fingertips through the UI. So scaling, this is something that is really important and a key part of DE6, and this is one of those pieces that differentiates DE6 from previous iterations of DE. We have the same somewhat capabilities as before, where you could have processes, and control how many replicas you wanted of that, how much memory or CPU to assign to those different services. With DE6, it's a little bit different, because in DE5, you had a single VM that you needed to appropriately size to what you thought your workloads were going to be. So if you had 40 gigs of memory and each application took 2 gigs, you could put 20 apps on that. They were each 4 gigs, you could put 10 apps on that. Workers and databases, and that kind of gets a little bit tricky. With DE6, because it is Kubernetes native, you can simply just add nodes or take away nodes as your workloads scale up and scale down. You don't need to know and have that server right-sized beforehand. It just is, you're able to use Kubernetes for what it's for, which is dynamic workloads, and that's what these applications are. If you want to shut one down, if you want to spin one up, if it gets a lot of traffic, if you need to delete it, the cluster is able to accommodate that really easily and handle variances in traffic, in app size, in number of replicas. And this is the foundation of giving you high availability failover, and those sorts of things that people that are deploying on Kubernetes and looking for that from their software need. This is exactly what we have available to you for your Dash applications and the services that go with them.
A couple of questions before you move on, Eric.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Authentications. Mike was asking, are the authentications new to D6?
No, those are something that we've had as core from the beginning. We're working to evaluate, can we make it easier? Can we make it more flexible? We're going to talk about in the integrate step, can we make that even more integrated to what customers have, where right now we have a layer inside of our platform that has to do some nuts and bolts. Are we able to minimize that surface area and make better use of what customers already have in their IDPs, and just have that layer only focus on what Dash Enterprise absolutely needs to do to, again, reduce that surface area and make it easier to integrate? That is something that we're evaluating and figuring out how we can do better.
And then Andrew asks, regarding the CLI, are there any changes? I'm assuming this is like D5 to 6 for current CI/CD integrations and pipelines.
Our CLI is, we actually are just focusing on extending capability with 6, not not taking away any functionality. So all you'll see in the CLI as we move forward is just improvements and more functionality, just like as you move forward in the platforms, moving up through the 5 instances of 5, you would get more functionality. 6 will be the same thing. So our CLI, we still need to put in some of the new things related to our backup and restore into that CLI tool, but those will come out, and you'll be able to manage as much as possible from that tooling for your Dash Enterprise instance.
That's it. So Amir, sorry, Amir said, I see a limits available to configure. Is there an option to manage the requests assigned per app, or is this handled in the back end?
Yes, so this is something that is manageable in the request at the this screenshot. I might not have put it properly for this question, but yes, that's something that you can manage your request and set them equal to limit. We're still just on some final tweaks on this, and we want to be able to allow for 2 scenarios. One is where your request is equal to limit, where the standard process is this app is going to consume X. I want to know that. I want to be able to provision for that. The other one is the term that we're using, burstable, and make it so that you set the limit, but it can burst below that. From below that value, you're not provisioning it. It can create a little bit of instability, and we're working out how to best mitigate that, because you're not necessarily ensuring that all of those resources are there. But yes, the short answer is that is doable.
And last one for this section, in terms of like GitHub and PRs, is the governance user or client controlled? If a company has certain requirements to make checks, how is that handled?
Yeah, so we have a GitHub app that basically just all its job is to do the auth to DE, and then when your done, the action just sends, basically runs our CLI and deploys that application. So everything about your pipeline and how you do PRs and how you do scans, we don't touch that. We're basically saying, hey, I want to create this connection from your GitHub organization to Dash Enterprise. And we don't feel that it's our job to touch anything other than that. Customers have their processes, and our job is just to facilitate you running your workflows. And we want to make that as easy as possible.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Onwards.
So now we're into operate. We're going to go back to the beginning. You don't have DE. So we're going to talk on, I guess it's on the bookends of it, managing that application once it's out there, but we're going to start with, you don't have Dash Enterprise at all. You have a cluster, you're moving from 5 to 6, you're a new customer, you don't have any DEs. What does that look like? Operating this instance, and this is where DE6 is really a different animal and a different platform than DE5, and we think that it's significantly better than the previous iterations because we've gone with this Kubernetes-native approach. So I want to talk about the installation. Helm is a standard tool for installing. It takes YAML files, and you run one command, pass in that YAML file, maybe a couple of flags, and Dash Enterprise just spins up. It can be automated through a CI pipeline. It can be, you provision that cluster with infrastructure as code. It's auditable, it's repeatable. Everything could be, you could store every single time you install in a Git repository, so you can go back through that history. Everything that's, if you've installed software into a cluster, it's likely that you've at least heard of Helm. You probably have some software that is installed via Helm. It's one of the standard ways of doing that, and we've wanted to adopt that and make that install going from 0 to 1 and having an instance ready, as easy as possible. And that's what we've done with this re-architecture. We took away all of to kind of give a bit of context. When we first built DE in the earlier versions, we wanted to put more into the platform so it was a one-stop shop. As the years have gone by and IT has expanded and companies have gotten better understood what they need, and the sophistication of the departments and just what's available has grown, the need for everything included has decreased. And so that's why we started with having a Git server, having a container registry, databases in cluster, everything being in that instance. And we had our own install tool, and we managed everything. We even managed the cluster if you were on our DE5 multi-node. This is saying, we know that you have everything that you need to get going. Here's our software that does build, deploy, operate, and integrate. We want to limit that surface area and we don't want to do things that you're already doing because you're going to do them better than we will. They fit better into your organization. We want to give you the best platform to manage those applications, manage the data that goes into those applications, and just be a high quality platform inside of your company, rather than trying to kind of get adoption or get exceptions or make you work with what we do. We want to make it so that we do what you need, and the install process is one of the ways that we do that. We've also done, I guess, another way that you can look at and this is on the architecture side of things, what is DE6? DE5 would have been cluster or server scoped. DE6 is namespace scoped. So it runs inside of a namespace, and that's it. It doesn't need full cluster access. It doesn't need anything beyond what you assign to it in that namespace. You scope things to the namespace, it gets access. You don't provide it those configurations or that access inside of there, it doesn't access it. So that's one of the like clear lines of separation for DE6 versus the previous versions. We've basically halved the footprint on DE6, and we're working to strip that down even more. Excuse me. And yeah, that just means that on infrastructure costs for running DE6, you either have the cost of that size, or that cost can go to putting more applications, which is really what you're hoping to do. We've just made the system lighter and lighter, and we're working to continue to do that. Like I said, simplifying the architecture, simplifying the system, but also the more state that's off that cluster, the fewer resources that are being used. And that just minimizes the complexity, the management burden, and also the cost of the platform. We support EKS, AKS, GKE, and we also have customers running on their own self-hosted Kubernetes versions. So we test heavily with the three major clouds. Obviously, we can't test on every configuration under the sun. If you are running something OpenShift, or you're running and managing through Rancher or something like that, we have customers that are running similar scenarios. So there's not a limitation on what type of Kubernetes Dash Enterprise can be installed into. Some of them might have a little bit more tweaks, but we can always figure out how to make it work. And lastly, and this is where I think DE just as a platform really shines and provides a lot of value to customers. Like I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of work with regulated companies, highly sensitive information. And not only can they not go public SaaS, public cloud, they can't have access to the internet. And we handle that out of the box, no problem. We give you all the images that you need to get installed. The whole process can happen offline. And installing in an air-gapped environment is almost the same as installing in an internet-connected environment. And we're working to improve that and make that better and better as we go, because we know how important it is to have that be possible and provide those companies with a platform that does the same thing. Being in the air-gapped environment shouldn't change that. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the upgrade process. Previous versions, going from 5.6 to 5.7, 5.7 to 5.8, and so on. Like I said, you had to run that custom install script. You were probably managing inside of DE5. You had to manage the Kubernetes version. You had to handle all these other things because we put so much inside of the platform. As we moved it all out, you manage your Kubernetes version for your cluster on your own time. We have customers that are running on quite older versions of Kubernetes that are past end of life. DE6 still runs. This is going back to Helm. This is a Helm upgrade, rotates through the pods, and you're running on the new version. 15-30 minutes is typical. That's kind of the process. There's not much more to it than that. We're a change, I guess, in the way that anybody that's come from 5 that either to look at 6 will be following Semver pretty strictly for this. So when you see a 6.0.1 or a 6.1, you can understand what that means. You're going to be getting new functionality, security updates, and we're looking to do more frequent, smaller updates to just be on top of new feature requests, patches, changes, and we're with this new approach to how we've re-architected it, able to be a lot more nimble in how we develop internally, but also how we deliver that product to keep you as up to date with everything as possible. Another DE6 benefit, resource management. You are able to, like I mentioned on the other scaling slide, the ability to just add nodes, take away nodes, set replicas, remove replicas, and the pods. It's just making more use of what Kubernetes is, what Kubernetes is meant to do, and that's just perfect for a platform that has and Dash apps. You don't know what they're going to be. There really isn't an average Dash app. And Kubernetes and DE6 are built to accommodate that. Backup and restore and observability. Backup and restore has been a big one. Anyone that's worked in software knows backing up and restoring a distributed system inside of Kubernetes is tricky. One of the things we've done to make that simpler is, again, when you move state off the cluster, get simpler to do. You use that tool's backup and restore system, but you still have to coordinate and orchestrate that. We have a system that you can set on a schedule. It will back up the whole instance, push it to a object storage of your choice, and then you can go install a new instance, point at that bucket or that object store, and it will put itself back into the state that it was beforehand. Excuse me. And you're off to the races. This is great for disaster recovery. This is great for anybody that just has to roll their software. You can do a backup, install a separate instance, restore it. When that's good, you can shut down the old one and go through that process. So we're continually working to improve this. We want to make it so that it's completely seamless. Everything goes down, everything goes back up when you do this process. And yeah, that's one of the things that we'll be working on over the coming months. With relation to observability, we found out from a lot of customers that we have observability tooling. We just want to use it with Dash Enterprise. And so moving to Kubernetes-native and kind of some of the refactors and re-architectures that we did, that is much more simple. If you use Datadog, you can put the Datadog agent and scrape the logs from the namespace and get them into your system. The metrics are there. However you're managing your observability and your logging right now, Dash Enterprise is able to kind of just stay out of the way and let you continue to do that work. And we are working to, one of the other things we'll be working on is making that, providing more information in our logs and in our metrics, and surfacing more of that through things like tracing, improving the structure and metadata that we put in logs. And I'd be remiss, any of the sales team, if Plotly is watching, if I didn't talk about high availability. This is a big one. This is why people put things on Kubernetes. We have it in two groups. One is state off the cluster. I've been saying that a lot, but state out of the instance. The more of that is there, the more highly available you're able to make your platform. This is what we've been doing with Git, with containers, all that sort of stuff. We're working to improve that by getting the database off of the cluster. We want to be able to allow the system to have replicas. So high availability is, I'd say, number one on what we're working on going forward to improve the product. And it's something that we can say in 6, we have user workloads are highly available, and we're working to make the whole platform just seamlessly highly available. You can do some work to make it so right now that you couldn't do with 5 and earlier versions. And we're working toward making that easier and easier with each step. And the last thing on this operate section is security. Big one for, like I said, regulated, sensitive customers. No root access is required. You can turn it on, but that means there's no, at any pod, any container, root access off by default, just to meet those requirements. We have a long list of OPA policies that we've aligned the product with. We have a tool for integrating IAM roles directly into the product and making those available for Dash apps, and avoiding having to hard code any secrets anywhere. So we've taken this is one of our big things that we've been working on over the last 2-3 months, and has allowed us to get installed and work to get installed in some really, really restricted environments that have a lot of regulation around them. So I'll try.
Quick question before we move on. Amir was asking, with upgrades, are these possible as rolling upgrades? Or what's the typical outage timing? Say if you've got 100 apps and you need to upgrade.
Yeah, that's about, I mentioned the 15 to 30 minutes. Our goal is to get that approximately to 0. Yes, we can do rolling upgrades in so much as when we push out a release, you can get that release and do that upgrade through your CI/CD. No problem. There's not we're really trying to minimize how much time you have to spend with the CS team and make that a process. There still is a bit of outage just because the pods have to restart with this, but our goal is to get that, like I said, as close to 0 into the single minute as possible. And part of that, I guess, scaling and high availability is that you could upgrade and also experience no outage. So pods can still rotate. So that is an eventual, that's our target for what we're doing with upgrades.
And do apps need to be rebuilt?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
That's it.
Thanks. So I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly because I know we're running out of time, and I've already talked about a lot of this with integration, and we just want to make it so that we are a piece that seamlessly fits in, not something that you have to work around. So GitHub, I've talked about that. You set up a GitHub app, all of your code stays in GitHub. DE just consumes it, does what it needs to do to get those apps available on the platform. Nothing about what you does changes. Container registries. We have a container registry on cluster, on instance if you need it, but if you don't, all of your apps can be pushed to your external container registry. You can scan them. You can go through your process. You can put them in another place. You can, when you do a backup and restore, you can put those apps back from that container registry rather than rebuild them. You can do however you need to manage it. That container registry follows your process, your workflow, and we just consume them there. We cover most of the standard container registries, and if there's something that's not on the list, then let us know and we will make sure that we support it. Workload identity. This is a really interesting and cool one that we're able to do. Kubernetes has service accounts under the hood, which you can assign essentially an IAM role to, which has a specific access. Inside of DE, you can make that IAM role through the service account available to users. And so a user can assign their service accounts to the Dash apps they need, which means they get access to whatever resources of that IAM role have without the user or the application ever needing to know anything about it. And so rather than hard coding a secret into the application, you can just assign the service account inside of the namespace. Again, namespace scoped, not cluster scoped. User can attach a Dash app, deploy it, and it is fully secured that way. No hard-coded secrets, no rolling secrets. Everything stays in the cloud provider where it needs to be.
I think that Amir was asking, is there support for integrating secret vaults, secret management rather, like Vault?
Yes, our mechanism for doing that right now would be through this workload identity. You would be able to, because that vault, using something to use HashiCorp Vault as an example, would be on a server somewhere that might have its own access. This works more easily with something maybe like AWS Secrets Manager, and you could pass that in that way. But another one of the things that we want to be able to do is provide first-class integration with secrets managers, Azure Key Vault, HashiCorp Vault, AWS Secrets Manager, and yeah, we're figuring out how to do that in a way that's seamless, as each of the providers has slight nuance to them, and we want to make sure that when we do the integration that it keeps everything secure. So it's something that we're looking at and evaluating for the best way to do that. But it would be an extension, or not an extension, in addition to this mechanism. For some companies, this is really important in the way they want to do it, but that direct secrets manager integration is something that we also want to do as well. So that is the end of the 4 steps. I want to talk a little bit about the roadmap for the rest of 2026. Improving our high availability is one of the top ones. And that means simplifying the platform as well as getting more of that state off the cluster. Improving our observability so that you are able to know what's going on and diagnose or just observe into what's happening in the platform, and then extending our integrations to more to support more GitOps and going multi-zone, multi-region. Again, that whole high availability idea and process that needs to happen. There's a lot of work in there to make it so that that's just a seamless process, and that's kind of what we'll be working on for the remainder of the year. I haven't listed some things here that the secrets integration, those all kind of go into as we simplify the platform. Are we able to do that more seamlessly? I mentioned earlier talking about more direct integration with IDPs and minimizing that surface area. All of that falls under simplifying the platform so that there are fewer things going on, and I guess we're doing less to provide you with more value. So that's kind of our roadmap going forward.
Question on the previous one, Eric.
Yep.
So what does all of this mean for Dash Enterprise 5?
Yeah, so Dash Enterprise 5 still supported. It will be getting security updates, patches. We're putting all of our development energy into DE6, and we're just due to the re-architecture and the focus on, I guess, give a bit of additional context with the move to the Helm install with being Kubernetes native. There are certain things that we just are able to do so seamlessly and easily with that process now. So we can do all these sorts of integrations that we can't do with DE5. And so we think that is not only architecturally it's a better way to manage Dash applications when you are on a cluster, but the things that we can do through this configuration setup that it uses, it's the way forward for the platform. So customers that are on 5, we will continue to support you. Our CS team is there. Our engineering team will jump in on some of the harder items. But we are encouraging everybody to move to 6 as it is what we'll be putting all of our energy into going forward.
Thanks.
So that actually should not say agenda. That should say summary of what we've talked about today. For the build phase, you have workspaces, GitHub integration, new build system, same per app services, data connectors. That's how you put together a high quality Dash application, all of it done in Dash Enterprise. Deploy, git push, deploy, auth is built in. You can configure everything through the CLI, through the app manager, and scale it up, scale it down. For operate, kind of the outer umbrella and envelope of this, you start with your Helm install in the namespace scope. You can back up and restore it outside of the cluster. You can see what's going on, and it's secure by default. And then the umbrella around that is integrate with GitHub, container registries, workload identity, your observability tools. All of that is possible because of our re-architecture, our focus on being Kubernetes native, having this, that tooling available to us, simplifying the platform, and as I said, having less in the platform and simplifying that so that you get more value as a Dash developer, as an IT department, as a business stakeholder, and just as a company.
Great. Thanks, Eric. We'll hang on here if folks have other questions, but next steps. So if you're an existing Dash Enterprise user, thank you. If you'd like to learn more, I'd suggest you talk to your account rep. If you don't know who that is, then please fill out the contact us form. If you're new to Dash Enterprise, or even Plotly Studio, and you'd like to talk to Mingo more and see the full Mingo show, if you go to plotly.com/get-demo, you can book a demo there. You can talk to our sales team. They're always happy to talk to everybody. But if you want to get started and kind of kick the tires on Plotly Studio, you don't need to talk to us at all. You can go to plotly.com/ it's a studio there. You can go to plotly.com/downloads, download Studio, and get started for free. So those are our kind of our main things. Yes, will we get this recording? Yep, the recording will be sent. You'll get a follow-up email from our wonderful marketing team, from Teresa, and that will have a link to the recording, so you can watch this at double speed if you want to. If we get any other questions here, I think we covered all the questions. So yeah, thanks for attending. Bookmark those different links, and thank you to Mingo and Eric for a very thorough walkthrough of Dash Enterprise 6. And we'll see you next time. I think, I have a couple more slides here. Yes. So we'll be at the Gartner Data and Analytics Summit, and actually I'll be there. We'll have a booth. We'll talk to a lot of folks about why their BI isn't broken. It's just from 2016, I think is our tagline. Slightly provocative, but when you see what Plotly Studio can do, combined with Dash Enterprise, it's a great way of breaking out of a lot of the limitations that you get with vendor lock-in. Our next webinar will be on March 11th. And again, with the same theme, we're going to show you how you can replicate things you're doing in Power BI, particularly. Mingo showed you how you can take an image and you can create an app from that. So we get an image of your Power BI dashboard, stick it in Plotly Studio, it will generate the code. And it will also connect to your Power BI semantic models. So we'll be demoing all of that on March 11th. So it's a very popular topic already. Oops. And with that, I'll say thank you. Anything else, email us at info@plotly.com, and we'd love to talk to you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.